when you think about the market overall, Jason Kylar hinted to it there. Do you think we could get to 1 billion subscribers or more?
Oh, I think we're easily chasing about 4 billion connected devices around the world. We're looking at it from a global basis. And when you think about the number of folks who have connected devices, it's much bigger than 1 billion. I mean, we will get past 1 billion without breaking sweat.
But you're not at all concerned about Netflix's latest results? I mean, what does that tell you? Subscriber growth just wasn't what people thought it would be.
Well, they still did very well. It may not be what they thought it would be, but I think anybody would take close to 4 million new subscribers per quarter any day of the week. They're a behemoth and they're going to continue to grow. We're in our infancy here. 100 years ago, it was the Industrial Revolution. And what fueled that was gas and oil. Today, 100 years later, it's the digital revolution. And what's fueling that is content, content, content. Content is the new oil. And we can't produce it fast enough, and we can't put it on the devices fast enough. The appetite is insatiable for content, and it's growing at a rate that people have never seen anything grow at. So we are firm believers in AVOD, advertising video on demand. I do believe subscription video on demand is challenging because you do have Disney in the space, Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, on and on. That's why we're firm believers in everybody's favorite word: free, free, and more free.
So you've got 2 ad-supported platforms, and the newest one called Local Now, which is focused on local news, offers more than 300 channels. Local news, and sadly, has been dying a slow death. I think we've all realized the gap that has been left in the middle of this pandemic, wanting to know what's going on in our communities. But what makes you think that, especially as we go back to normal, that people are going to want another streaming network and focused on local news?
Listen, I think it's a great question. Real simple. When I bought the Weather Channel a little over 3 years ago, I got a gift from the digital gods. They said to me in the new owner's presentation at the end of the day, and a kind of just a throwaway, they said, oh, by the way, you own something that's the equivalent of a fully distributed broadcast network that uses proprietary software, artificial intelligence to aggregate, produce, and curate from multiple sources, local news, weather, sports, and traffic, geofence to the end user's zip code. And I said, wow, that's genius. They said, yeah, you're probably going to want to shut it down because it's losing over 25 million a year. And I said, absolutely not. There's no way I'm going to shut it down. So I said, but I'm going to reposition the asset. So over the last 3 years, I put it in beta, and I've invested personally over 100 million of my capital to reposition it. They were trying to do it as SVOD, get people to pay $4.99 a month. I think that's challenging. I said, I'm going to make it AVOD, advertising video on demand. I'm going to add free movies, TV shows, documentaries, and I'm going to provide local news because super hyper local information is essential. It's absolutely essential. People want to know what's going on with COVID-19, but more importantly, they want to know what's going on with COVID-19 in their zip code. And we're watching everything digitized.
They also want to know what's going on with the weather, and that is your other streaming platform, which is Pattern, sort of a sister platform to the Weather Channel. I mean, as an example, how much engagement are you seeing? How many viewers how many viewers are there?
Well, listen, on Local Now, it's been in beta for a little over 3 years, but without any promotion, we achieved 5.8 million monthly active users. I'm now about to spend an enormous amount of capital to promote Local Now because we're on all the platforms and people can download it in less than 15 seconds and authenticate it from their zip code. But there's one thing you will always need. It's clearly very essential. You're going to need local news and information. As far as Pattern is a platform that is really focused on climate change, global warming, and what we have to do as human citizens to stop climate change and get people to understand what that means. There's so many things that people aren't connecting the dots. Simply, moving species and animals out of their natural habitation and closer to the human food chain how that will trigger epidemics and pandemics, food shortages, water shortage, you name it. It's going to create climate refugees, and it's going to have people trying to cross borders. That's going to trigger genocide. We have some real issues with climate change. When I bought the Weather Channel a little, 3 years ago, I asked my scientist to come into a room and talk to me. And I asked them, I said, by a show of hands, please raise your hands if climate change, global warming, if it's a real threat to human beings, if this is the greatest threat that we have right now, and this is a serious
Right.
matter, tell me. And everybody raised their hands and said, without exception, climate change and global warming is the greatest threat that we're facing as human beings. And I said, from this moment on, we're not going to be Switzerland. We're going to talk about it, and we're going
Right.
to start pattern. And we're going to do the Weather Channel in Espanol, because I want to make sure people who don't speak English in this country have access to this life-saving information.